This is the most brazen high school exam cheating scene in India. The man is seen blatantly covering his desk with cheat sheets. And he vows to take first place this year. However, the proctor suddenly speaks up. Tear up all the cheat sheets in your hands. You idiots can't even copy the answers correctly. It turns out it was the same scene last year. But even though the teacher allowed the cheating, 175 out of 200 students still failed and had to repeat the grade. So the school decided this year to write all the answers directly on the blackboard for the students to copy. Everyone cheered upon hearing this, thinking victory was certain. However, just as the teacher was working hard at the blackboard, the newly appointed local police chief arrived for a surprise inspection. What is going on here? This is an old tradition, Mr. Chief. Can we step aside and talk? The principal said bluntly. This kind of cheating is an established convention. Because even if this bunch of idiots studied day and night, they would never be able to pass the exam. Only by giving them a little help can they graduate successfully. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be able to find a menial job to scrape by. Seeing that the chief was not swayed by his nonsense, the principal reminded him that this is the mayor's school, seemingly trying to use the pressure of power to make him back down. Just then, a call from the mayor rang right on time. However, the chief hung up without even answering. Seeing the other party was so tough, the principal had to use his final trick, which was to test the chief's integrity with money. Unexpectedly, this directly became evidence of bribery. Just like that, the disheveled principal was arrested and jailed. The children behind him all had to repeat the grade because the cheating failed. But everything seemed to be just as the principal said. Unable to graduate successfully, they couldn't even find menial jobs. So, those with no other option started a rickshaw business. But this desperate way of making a living infringed upon the mayor's bus interests. Seeing the mayor's conductor trying to take away his passengers, the older brother didn't hesitate to hit him with a slipper.
Welcome to the Shin Music.
This is the first time someone has hit the mayor's man with a shoe. Well, this is the second time. However, when the two brothers were returning with the wind at sunset, the police cars and buses that had been waiting for a long time had already blocked the road. Seeing this, the passengers decisively and sensibly switched sides, leaving only the brothers' unwillingness and resistance echoing in this green, mountainous countryside. In the end, the two were arrested and jailed on trumped-up charges. The uniformed guard did not act impartially, but chose to collude with the mayor's interests and insulted the two while beating them. Honest father. This touched the raw nerve of the younger brother, Manoj. He said he would use his grandfather's rifle to bring justice. Unexpectedly, the guard became even more aggressive upon hearing this. Go ahead. Go get your grandfather's rifle. Either you kill me tonight, or I will shoot your brother tonight. Manoj, who escaped from the police station, was like a lost lone swan. Every step he took felt like a desperate, helpless roar. It was clear that these two options both led to the same dead end. So he had a sudden idea and ran into the police chief's compound. Although the guard at the gate wanted to drive him away without asking why. Fortunately, the noisy commotion woke up the chief. However, the chief told him to come back the next day. Seeing this, Manoj angrily questioned. Then why didn't you come the next day on the day of the exam? Instead, you showed up right on time. If it weren't for you, we won't take such risks either. My brother is in grave danger right now. And yet you stand by and watch. Is this the integrity you boast about? Before they did it, the police chief had already walked to the door. Clearly, his provocation had worked. Hearing from the fake witnesses, his subordinates found that they were smuggling alcohol and hitting people recklessly. The enlightened police chief immediately released the brother without charges. Then he picked up a stick and exposed the outrageous lies for what they were. Afterward, he even kindly drove the two helpless boys home. In the car, Manoj sincerely apologized to the police chief. He said their father was as upright as he was. However, this character trait led to his suspension and persecution. That was why he mistakenly thought that integrity in this world had no practical use. But tonight's event made him realize the truth. If integrity possesses power, it can promote justice. Conversely, integrity without power is worthless. Just like their father. He, a man of integrity, because he could not tolerate the mayor and the boss colluding to deceive the farmers, took off his shoe and threw it at the boss. This was the first time someone had thrown a shoe at Chauhan. And this was the second time. Since then, the upright father left home to collect evidence of crimes, embarking on a path of seeking justice, and a point of no return that abandoned his wife and children. And his departure directly caused the whole family's livelihood to suffer. This was also the reason they took risks to compete for business with the mayor. But fortunately, with the police chief's intervention, they escaped a disaster. Before leaving, Manoj asked the police chief one last question. Sir, I want to become a police officer like you. What should I do? Stop cheating. That's it. However, he could never have imagined that his casual advice would be something Manoj would strictly follow for a lifetime. When the police chief was transferred for no reason the following year, the school returned to its tradition of cheating. Only Manoj, who trusted the police chief implicitly, disdained it. Not only did he graduate successfully based on his own merits, but through his own unremitting efforts, he obtained a bachelor's degree in history. On graduation day, grandmother personally called him over and then took out her pension, covered in the dust of time, and told Manoj to take it all as the cost for taking the police exam. Looking at the heavy box of love in his hands, he could not contain himself for a long time. Finally, weeping with joy, he threw himself into grandmother's warm embrace. You must know that in the 3 years he was pursuing his degree, even when his mother sold off all the valuable property in the house, grandmother had never contributed her pension to maintain their livelihood. Yet now, with a wave of her hand, she used it as the expense for her grandson's civil service exam. Manoj knew that this kindness could not be repaid with any amount of words, only by wearing the uniform, and returning home in glory would be the best repayment. But he still underestimated the dangers of the world. When the bus slowly arrived in the provincial capital, Gwalior, waking up suddenly from a dream, he suddenly discovered that the handbag he was carrying had vanished. Just like that, having arrived with a large sum of money, he was suddenly left with nothing. The sudden accident left him at a loss. Every time he stopped and turned back to look, he was deeply gripped by despair. At night, he closed his eyes and prayed at the church entrance. But sincere prayers could not win God's mercy. Unable to stop the face of despair from being stained by the decay of life. And what was worse, when he went to the counseling agency for advice the next day, he was told that the provincial government had declared bankruptcy because it could not pay salaries and would indefinitely terminate the provincial civil service examination. This news was like a bolt from the blue, a heavy blow to him. This meant he had lost his ticket home and had no direction to move forward. After going hungry for several days in a row, his exhausted body and mind finally overcame his self-esteem, driving him to beg for mercy. I am starving to death. Can I have something to eat? I would be happy to do some work for you. But I have no money. The guy gave him a plate. Just like that, he finally received a kind treat. And the feat of finishing a plate of rice in 2 minutes also successfully caught the attention of the rich kid opposite him. After learning of Manoj's ambitions and his unfortunate circumstances, he generously paid for his meal and invited him to go together to participate in the national exam that had not been cancelled, saying that once you pass the Indian police service exam, even the powerful mayor would have to respect you. This allowed the dejected Manoj to instantly find a new direction to strive for. Finally, after a day of traveling, the two finally arrived in the capital, New Delhi. Dreamers from all over the country gathered here. Their figures moved back and forth in the night. Their footsteps echoed repeatedly on the streets. This scene of people coming and going made Manoj feel a bit lost. How could he stand out? Regarding this question, there is only one shortcut, and that is to ask for advice from those who have been through it. So, through an acquaintance's introduction, they found a senior, Gauri, who had taken the civil service exam 6 times. This senior, who kept failing but kept trying, explained to them how the national civil service examination works. The exam is divided into 3 stages, which are the preliminary exam, the main exam, and the interview. The preliminary exam screens 1,000 people. Screens 1,000 people to enter the main exam. Out of the 1,000 people in the main exam, only 100 can participate in the interview. Only 20 out of the 100 interviewees pass in the end. In other words, only 20 out of every 200,000 candidates are admitted. The admission rate is a negligible 0.01%. And every Indian only has 4 chances in their lifetime. But if you are from a disadvantaged caste, you can have 2 additional chances. And because of this, the senior did not lose heart even after failing 5 times in a row. Finally, he successfully made it to the interview on his 6th attempt. Thinking he had it in the bag, he had already bought a police uniform, constantly fantasizing about returning home in glory and reforming society. However, Manoj's shy wallet did not allow it. He also constantly fantasized. He confessed his predicament of having his luggage stolen to Senior Gauri. So, the senior used the connections he had built from cleaning toilets for 3 years to help Manoj find a job doing odd jobs at the library. When the wealthy Pandey learned that he had found a job, he even opened champagne to celebrate. It was to celebrate a friend's life settling down, feeling genuinely happy for him, or because he enjoyed the thrill of opening champagne and squandering dirty money. He spoke bluntly, saying his father was a greedy contractor who not only took many bribes, but also forced him to pass the tax officer exam to double the dirty income. But he never had the courage to tell his father that his dream had always been to be a journalist pursuing the news. So he had to silently rebel by squandering the dirty money. The next day, the exciting moment of the results release finally arrived. Senior Gauri, on the list, searched repeatedly with hope. However, he could not find his name anywhere. The tears in his eyes became increasingly sorrowful. Finally, everyone realized the truth. The senior's last chance was also buried in regret. But the failure after 6 consecutive years forged his mindset to bravely accept the facts. From then on, he began to pin his hopes on his junior. He not only provided a place to study, but also charged no tutoring fees, operating solely on some meager tea money. They sat on the ground in front of the stall, with a willing attitude, living a life of diligent study. There was no complaint about the environment in their hearts, only an endless thirst for knowledge. Soon, the preliminary results for the national exam in the 2nd year were released. Manoj, who had fought for a year, suffered a crushing defeat in the first stage. This made him unable to accept it, leaving him dazed. But the reality of thousands of people crossing a single plank bridge. Destined that failure would be the norm. It was destined that failure would be the norm. Senior Gory, who understood this deeply, shook his dazed body and shouted to try again. From then on, he began to study and work even harder. And whenever he had time, he helped deliver goods for the senior shop. This busy figure made the wealthy Pandy's friends very disdainful. They said these poor people came from the bottom in droves. And after finally getting here, they didn't study wholeheartedly, but instead wasted a lot of time on menial work. How could they possibly pass the exam in this state? What is the point of them coming across mountains and rivers? Is it to waste the country's resources? But this condescending remark made Gory indignant. He said that we people at the bottom indeed have nothing. We don't have a decent job, nor do we have a halo of a prestigious school, and even less money to attend a professional tutoring class. But you must be clear, we did not come empty-handed. We came with our will, determined to become officials one day. Even if we have to clean libraries or toilets. We never give up, because our will is as firm as a rock. This kind of will cannot be cultivated in some prestigious schools.
Enjoy the vibes.
It is born from the hopes and dreams of millions of Indians. Our will is our wealth. Victory and failure are both part of life. But for millions of us, as long as someone succeeds, it is a win for the whole group. Under Gory's passionate words, the gears of time turned forward another year. During this year, Manoj never slacked off in his work and studies, finally breaking through the siege to earn the opportunity for the main exam. But the urgent task now was not to be complacent, but to find the best coach to prepare for the main exam. Upon recommendation, he came to the most prestigious local tutoring center. The walls here were covered with moments of countless students' dreams coming true, which made Manoj have no doubt about their teaching standards. But being short on money, he had saved for 2 years, and only had enough for half the registration fee. So he begged them to allow him to pay in installments, offering to do all the odd jobs at the center in return. Unable to resist Manoj's persistent pestering, the person in charge finally accepted the money, and told him to go to the office to fill out the form. However, in the office, he accidentally discovered a portrait of Deep Mohan. This left him very confused, because this person had once said at a sharing session that he was self-taught, and because he had mistaken Manoj for a T-boy, he owed him a favor. Clear memory and honest character drove him to point out this error. But the person in charge told him that this was a photo they had paid 150,000 rupees for, a paid endorsement, a common marketing tactic in market competition. But Manoj could not tolerate this kind of fraudulent behavior. He pointed out in public that all this was also writing. At least the top scorer Deep Mohan had never studied here. In the end, his honesty ruined the center's business and led to his registration being rejected. But because of this, he went into a large shop, guided by fate. The two met unexpectedly at a library the next day. Seeing him holding books on aerospace engineering, Shraddha mistakenly thought he was a knowledgeable engineer. Out of deep-seated inferiority, Manoj did not deny it, and even invited her to sign up at the tutoring center recommended by senior. Thus, they built a friendship based on lies. And this friendship, in their day-to-day interactions, would gradually warm into love. In class, the teacher publicly praised Manoj because his essay on terrorism in India was written exceptionally well. And Manoj gave this gift entirely to Shraddha. From then on, their budding feelings became even sweeter. They spent gentle times and memories in Shraddha's singing, and under the witness of an ancient tree, exchanged the peace of their inner worlds, their love wandered in the poetic charm of every smile and frown. And in their most beautiful years, they left a significant mark on each other. But once a beautiful lie is exposed, it will be an endless abyss. During a lecture, the teacher asked about pencils while lunching. Hearing it was Manoj's field of expertise, Shraddha stood up directly, stating that Manoj knew all about these things. However, questions in unknown areas exposed his true colors. At this point, a crack appeared in their relationship. He apologized to the deceived Shraddha, saying that this lie of misunderstanding, it was his lack of courage to resolve it. But the long overdue confession, in the end, it still couldn't stop the emotional estrangement. Since then, Manoj's life has gone downhill, and his work also faced a crisis, because the income from selling waste paper this year was 1/4 less than last year. The suspicious librarian insisted that Manoj took kickbacks, even though the accounts were laid out exactly as they were. He refused to believe it, and even slandered his honest father as a lying thief. A thief's son. How dare you call my father a thief? Just like that, he angrily resigned from the library and stopped attending classes at the tutoring center. Instead, in a small, dim, and rumbling flour mill attic, he worked and studied on his own. Pandy questioned how he could study in such an environment. After hearing this, he first turned off the machine's engine. Then turned on a small night light to show his desk. I study right here. Candy advised him not to be stubborn and move in to live with him, because now is the time to put all his focus on exam preparation. But Manoj just smiled it off. Compared to living under someone else's roof, he preferred to support himself. However, the main exam that arrived as scheduled soon brought him misfortune. As a Hindi-speaking candidate, English had always been his weak point. But this time, the English exam went exceptionally smoothly, because the topic of the essay happened to be terrorism in India. He only needed to take the essay that was praised in class and translate it into English to get a high score. However, a classmate next to him said to him, "Learn some English, brother. Stop talking about the Indian police station. This is not terrorism in India, but tourism in India. Tourism, travel." Perhaps this is the misfortune one must endure when checking answers after an exam. Unable to accept it, he collapsed to the ground. The second attempt ended in failure just like that. After that failure, he did not restart endless studying. Instead, he took a bus through the winding mountain roads, leaving heavy footprints on the leaf-covered stone steps. He had not forgotten that he owed Shraddha a formal apology and a passionate confession. However, it was Shraddha's butler who came out to greet him. It turned out she was attending her cousin's wedding at the time. When the butler connected the call, he first apologized for leaving without saying goodbye, then confessed his mistake in the main exam. Finally, what came next was that passionate love and the long overdue confession. "I want to tell you one thing." "What is it?" "I love you." "Now you say it too. And then I will turn the world upside down for you. Please give the phone to the butler." After the butler finished the call, his expression was very cold. Clearly, the self-righteous confession was rejected. "She said you should go back to New Delhi." He left in deep disappointment and regret. It seemed that only at this moment did he suddenly realize, perhaps from the very beginning, he shouldn't have hoped for a love that crossed class boundaries. After leaving the villa, he did not immediately return to prepare for the exam. Instead, he took a bus back to his long-lost hometown. Everything in his memory that was barren and desolate seemed unchanged. But in reality, things had long since changed. His brother had been worn down by reality. His sister had grown taller with the passage of time. And that grandmother who loved him deeply had been erased by time. His mother told Manoj that grandma asked them after she passed away to keep her death a secret and not to disturb you and your father under any circumstances. His mother also told him that they were doing very well now. His older brother was now managing the house alone. His younger sister was now a maid for a wealthy family, and she herself was tending sheep and cattle for others. And the pay wasn't low, so if he was short on money, he could just ask the family for it. But Manoj knew very well that this was just a lie from his mother to put his mind at ease. The family's current situation, which was nothing like before, had already revealed everything. When a well-intentioned lie is exposed, the softness deep in one's heart sheds all disguise, allowing true feelings to flow in silent tears. After that, Manoj carried an extra burden of family responsibility. For this, he worked 15 hours a day, studied for 6 hours, and his sleeping time was even a meager 3 hours. Until one day, his father came in person to take him home. Years of hitting walls made his father realize the truth, that his own integrity was truly worthless. That seemingly noble act of leaving home was actually just throwing an egg against a stone, and had even caused the entire family to suffer deeply. So he decided to surrender to his boss, collude with evil, and make a lot of money. But Manoj told his father not to be defeated so easily. At least he would accompany him on the path of pursuing justice, and he would also work hard to support the family. So he begged his father not to worry about the family's plight anymore, but to continue pursuing justice. Believe that ordinary, unyielding steps will one day be able to step into the sacred land of ideals. In this way, his father cheered up again. And after saying goodbye to his father, Manoj had an unexpected reunion. Dara, who had finished attending the wedding, returned to class. After class, she went straight to Manoj to apologize, claiming that her rejection at the time was a lie told out of nervousness. But his worrying family situation no longer allowed the young man to harbor hopes for love. Now is not the time for a relationship. I must focus on my studies. I carry responsibilities on my shoulders. Then I will wait for you. After that, the hard work in the dark attic continued for another year, and the expected result arrived as scheduled. Dara helped Manoj check his preliminary exam results and delivered the good news that he had qualified for the main exam. But Manoj did not seem surprised, because 3 years of repetition had already made the preliminary exam easy for him, and he was also well prepared and competent for the main exam. But Dara told him, there are no multiple choice questions in the main exam this time. Instead, you need to write many essays, which you are not good at. So why don't I lend you some money, and you can leave your job to fully prepare? After all, this dark environment doesn't look like a place for studying at all. But Manoj flatly rejected her kindness. Father always said, I am not afraid of the darkness outside, but the darkness within. Compromising for comfort is darkness. But you already know. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam studied under streetlights. And at least I have my own light bulb. But even though he was good at finding joy in hardship, the large number of essays in the main exam still left him at a loss. In the end, he only completed 12 out of 20 essays. So when the results came out, his result was self-evident. At night, the two of them were at Senior Gauri's stall, thinking about their future paths. But the sudden visit of the wealthy third-generation Pandey shattered this brief moment of peace. Facing Manoj's failure, he said bluntly, "This is all because Shraddha distracted you. If the two of you had never met, you would have passed the main exam easily. Ridiculously, you still haven't realized until now. If you remain obscure, she will leave you. Because no one wants to be with a loser. This is the painful lesson my girlfriend of 3 years gave me." These words made Shraddha feel wronged, and she left in tears. Seeing this, Manoj chased after her to try and make her stay. In a deep gaze filled with love and tears, Shraddha finally said the words that had been lingering in her heart. "I love you. Now, go and turn the world upside down." This late expression of love sent his heart into a whirlwind. But the essay in the main exam will always be the obstacle to him turning the world upside down. While running in confusion, he suddenly thought of a savior. That was Deep Mohan, the top scorer of the national exam 3 years ago. He once owed him a favor. Now, Mohan is a high-ranking official in the Ministry of Home Affairs. But he still remembered this boy who came from poverty, yet worked exceptionally hard. So even late at night, he did not refuse his request. Facing Manoj's predicament, he pointed out incisively, "This is the mistake of applying the method of the preliminary exam to the main exam. The preliminary exam is more objective, while the main exam is more subjective. If you use rote memorization to deal with the essay-heavy main exam, it definitely won't work. You must know that the main exam is only 3 hours long. Yet you have to write 20 essays. On average, you have to write at least 200 words every 9 minutes. That includes subtracting 40 seconds to read the question. So in reality, you must write 200 words in 8 minutes and 20 seconds. However, Manoj said confidently, "That's not difficult." To make him realize his blind self-confidence, Mohan asked him to, in 8 minutes and 20 seconds, write a 200-word essay. The topic was about Manoj himself. However, on this seemingly easy topic, he struggled to write. Finally, when time was up, he had only written 90 words. If he stumbled even on the topic he knew best, how could he calmly handle those extremely unfamiliar international topics? Therefore, Mohan concluded, his final attempt would also end in failure. "I don't mean to belittle you, but you really can't do it." Not only did Mohan conclude he couldn't do it, but even Senior Gauri believed he would never succeed this way. How could someone who serves tea and grinds flour every day possibly outcompete students from prestigious schools who focus solely on their studies? So he decided to let Manoj move into his room. "From now on, all you have to do is study. Stop grinding flour. I will send money to your family." "No, brother, I'm not doing you a favor. This is a loan. I will take back double from your first paycheck." "No, brother, shut up. Say one more word and I'll bury you here." That was how Manoj moved into Gar's room. It was also the first time in his life that he had a desk to study at. And the next day, Dar gave him a stopwatch, instructing him to keep it running for 16 hours a day. Then he gave him the exam papers from the past 10 years. Perhaps moved by Pandey's words, she decided to leave Manoj for a while and return to her hometown to take the reopened provincial civil service exam. When the long-cherished worries were set aside, when the shackles hindering learning were broken, those who had long been in darkness finally welcomed the long-awaited light. This time, he could finally touch the warmth of knowledge with his soul, and finally let go of all concerns to give it his all. Time condenses fragrance, years mellow like wine. Every night of struggle lays the groundwork for future growth. Every effort brings fresh memories. No one's future will wither forever, and no one's past will be filled with eternal sorrow. As long as the heart faces the sun, one can be fearless of sorrow. As long as one is full of hope, one can ride the wind and waves. As for those scattered fragments of moving slowly toward a dream, they will gather into a lifelong fragrance in the heart. When the August sun shone into the quiet exam hall, for years of accumulation finally blossomed. This time, having built up his strength, he finally passed the main exam as he had wished. But Pandey, who lacked effort, failed 4 times in a row. The cold words from his father on the phone made him feel frustrated. However, the good brother in front of him not only didn't care about him, but was also focused on sharing good news with his girlfriend. This made him very disappointed and angry. "You should know that I not only told you the news about the national exam, but also helped you with food, clothing, and shelter. Even the clothes you were wearing were given to you by me. And you not only ignored my failure, but also wanted to use my phone to flirt. Is this how you act as a brother?" And so, the two who were once like brothers parted on bad terms. Finally, Manoj was at a public phone booth, connecting with his family. His mother on the other end of the line was as usual, reporting only the good news and hiding the bad. But when they heard he had passed the main exam, every family member's face was filled with bright smiles. This was perhaps the only comfort in their difficult lives. After hanging up on his family, He called Dara. However, Dara said she couldn't return to New Delhi to accompany him for the interview because someone had called her father and slighted them for sleeping together. What was even more disappointing was that her father actually chose to believe it. Feeling something was suspicious, he suspected Pandy was behind it. However, when he wanted to call to find out the truth, the other person's phone rang at the police station. Come and pick up your friend. Hello, who is this? Mukherjee Nagar police station. Your friend is in big trouble. It turned out that a heavily intoxicated Pandy was making a scene in public. Facing the police's attempt to stop him, he continued to shout and scream. So he was taken to the detention center. He needed to pay a 5,000 fine. But Manoj said, making noise is not a recognizable crime. You must have a magistrate issue a warrant to have the right to arrest someone. The so-called fine also has no legal basis. So the 3,000 rupees taken from Pandy has become proof of your bribery. You should know that the person standing in front of you is about to become an Indian police service officer. And the first document I sign after taking office will be your suspension letters. This scared the sheriff nearby quite a bit. In the end, Pandy was acquitted. The 3,000 bribe previously paid was also returned in full. He remarked that his good friend's performance tonight was like a god descending to earth. But Manoj found in his phone a record of calls between him and Shraddha's father. Just as he expected, Pandy was the slanderer. Therefore, the two who had briefly reconciled parted ways again. On the other side, Shraddha, dragged into a whirlpool of trust by lies, was struggling bitterly. She poured her heart out to her mother about how much her father used to trust her. When everyone discouraged her from quitting medical school to join the civil service exam path, only her father supported her and sent her to New Delhi to live and study independently. But now, because of a stranger's lie, he has confined her here. What an absurd and disappointing decision. She pleaded with her father to trust her, because as a tax officer who passed the provincial exam, she is no longer that infant in swaddling clothes. Now she has the right to choose for herself, and the ability to distinguish right from wrong. She said very honestly that Manoj and I love and support each other just like you and mother. So I must return to New Delhi to accompany him through the final leg of his journey. But I will never engage in improper behavior before marriage, because I will never betray the trust you have in me, father. Perhaps in the face of illusions and lies, the true feelings flowing from the heart are the best weapon. In the end, her father was moved by her heartfelt words and chose to let go, letting her pursue the dawn in her heart. In the human world, autumn moons bring good fortune, and fallen leaves meet the wind again. Finally, the two who longed for each other broke through the cage and continued their relationship. Today is also the day of Manoj's interview. Accompanied by Shraddha, he went to a barbershop to clean up the traces of his past misery. Then he rang Pandy's doorbell. I came to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have reached this point. True friendship is always this resilient. It never falls apart because of unpleasant memories. When he learned that Manoj had come to see him, specifically before his interview, the emptiness in his heart was filled with emotion. But beyond being moved, he also felt apologetic towards Shraddha. However, Shraddha was very grateful for his lie, because this incident meant there would be no more suspicion between father and daughter. And it also allowed him to be with his loved one openly. While the three were laughing, Shraddha joked that Pandy's lies were very convincing, and he should become a television reporter. Hearing this, he, who had been wasting his time, finally remembered the dream he had forgotten for 4 years. On the sunny road leading to the future, Shraddha gave him a letter filled with love and instructed him to open it during the interview. As the car reached its destination, the rest of the road had to be walked by him alone. In the waiting hall for interviewees, top talents from all over the country gathered. Most of them came from wealthy backgrounds and graduated from prestigious schools. Only Manoj came from a poor background with an ordinary resume. At this moment, the official reviewing the documents asked him why there was a 1-year gap between high school and college. Manoj answered truthfully that he had failed the college entrance exam. This made him sneer with contempt. But the old man who guided him not only didn't mock him, but secretly told him that the main interviewer here had a bias against Hindi medium students. So he must not tell the truth. Just say that year was when your grandmother passed away, which caused your failure. However, when the main interviewer asked him why he didn't pass that year, he still chose honesty and integrity. He stated that the arrival of the new police chief that year put an end to cheating in the entire school, which was why he failed the 12th grade. This made the examiner, who already discriminated against Hindi-speaking candidates, even more repulsed. Thank you for your valuable time. You may leave now. All right. Leave quickly. Manoj, please wait outside for a moment. While waiting outside, he opened the letter from Shraddha. It was written as follows. Whether you are a police officer or a flour mill worker, I am willing to spend the rest of my life with you. So, will you marry me? A short love letter of only 4 lines, shone into his heart like the morning sun. From then on, the rest of his life would no longer be filled with panic, nor would it be filled with hesitation. Shortly after, the interviewer called him back in. She was curious why Manoj, who could have lied, chose to tell the truth instead. He said that using deception to cover up deception only leads to more deception in the end. She asked again, then why did you choose to cheat? He stated that he didn't know it was wrong at the time, until he met that newly appointed police chief. That was when he began to change. So when the next year, the school restarted this old tradition, he was the only one who earned a passing grade through his own hard work. But his passing grade was much happier than the excellence of others. This also made him realize that, without a thorough reform, this tradition of cheating would never be eradicated. However, the examiner believed that this was just an excuse to cover up his own weaknesses. Could a failure in the entrance exam who only knows how to talk big be better than top talents from the Indian Institute of Technology? But Manoj said, they might be better and more excellent than me, but I am definitely more suitable and valuable than them. My relationship with them is like that of Edmund and the Sherpas. Edmund was the first person to climb Mount Everest, but the Sherpa Angrita was the first to reach the summit without oxygen. In my opinion, his difficulty was higher and his achievement greater. And I am also someone who, without oxygen, has overcome thorns and thistles to reach this point. I have experienced more hardships and dangers than them, and I have witnessed more of the world's evils than them. So I am more suitable than them to lead the reform, because I know where the root of the problem lies. But the examiner remained unmoved. Let me tell you one last thing. If Sir Edmund had not found the way, your Sherpa would never have reached the summit. In any case, I am done with you. Does anyone else have any questions? Then, the female interviewer on the side asked him, what will you do if your final attempt also fails? He said, I will accept it calmly, and then return to the village to become a village teacher, teaching children not to cheat. If they study hard when they are young, they will live honest and happy lives. This was an idea that suddenly came to me while I was studying under a street lamp one day. If I cannot eventually become the sun that illuminates the earth, I would be willing to become a street lamp to light up the street where I am. To become a lamp. Then you can go now. Just like that, he was kicked out of the exam room by the examiner. The remaining hope was also very slim. A waste of time. So arrogant. A month and a half later, Shraddha dragged Manoj to check the final admission results. But he had long since given up all hope, because the examiner's words, a waste of time, still echoed in his ears. As the staff unlocked the long sealed chains, countless students rushed forward to check their long-awaited results. But Manoj stood frozen in place, afraid to step forward, until Shraddha nodded at him with tears and laughter. Only then did he feel the sweetness of his hard-earned success. It turned out that after he left that day, the 4 interviewers were moved by his honesty, integrity, and his noble character. They felt this was not only good for the image of the police force, but also beneficial for the entire nation's progress. If such a person was not selected, then what would be the point of this selection process? In the end, the broken strings played a melodious sound. Flowers bloomed as wished on the barren land. Spring and birdsong replaced the dead winter. The morning light brought a brand new vitality, and that companion who had been lost for 4 years finally regained the courage to chase dreams. Breaking news. A high school dropout, a toilet cleaner, a flour mill worker. My friend Manoj Kumar Sharma will be an Indian police service officer. Preetam Pandey reporting live on television for the first time. My brother Manoj did it. My brother Manoj is an Indian police service officer. After receiving the news, the brother at home ran to spread the word. The mother smiled brightly before the phone. The aged and unyielding father regained the strength to fight against the darkness. And the head of that institution from before secretly slipped him 150,000 in cash as a fake endorsement fee. But he, being honest and upright, how could he betray his original intention before even taking office? He declined her false kindness. Instead, a year later, he found the person who had truly cared for him. This is the first invitation to my wedding. Thank you. You don't remember me. You once told me to stop cheating. I don't cheat anymore, sir. The temporary rickshaw puller? Yes, sir. This is a true story. From failing high school to achieving the dream of the national exam. From a commoner at the bottom to a high-ranking official. This is not just his personal victory. It is also a shared win for the entire group. Just as that senior Gauri said. They have nothing. But they did not come empty-handed. They came carrying their dreams. They came with a determination to change their situation. And they also carried the courage to break the waves and endure hardships. One day, they will cross the mud beneath their feet. And for those in life who look up to a clear distance, and look down with firm steps. Those who radiate the fragrance of perseverance. They will surely be able to face all of fate's challenges without fear, even if they may not necessarily achieve their ideals in the end. Their ending will never be one of sorrow. Of course, I also believe the protagonist's comeback is just a rare exception, and not a role model suitable for most ordinary people to follow. But the honesty and integrity he possesses is a light that everyone can possess, even in us ordinary people. This light may not shine like the sun, nor be as bright as a street lamp, but at least it can shine like fireflies in flight. And at least it can make the rest of life free of regrets and shame. May you and I both keep the light of honesty and integrity shining, bringing love and hope to wherever we can reach. Bring love and hope to the places you can shine on. Believe. The breaking of a cocoon by a single butterfly can break the silence of a long night, but the flapping wings of thousands of butterflies can shake the vitality that has been dormant through spring. There is no winter. There is no winter that cannot be overcome. Spring and the singing of birds will eventually arrive.